What you are about to hear has the power to forever transform the way you understand your life, your purpose, and the very essence of who you are. Perhaps you have arrived at this point feeling disconnected, as if the reality you once lived in no longer belongs to you. It's a bewildering sensation, isn't it? Like the pieces that once fit together seamlessly have now scattered unexpectedly, leaving you in the midst of an inexplicable void. But what if this apparent chaos isn't the end of your journey, but rather the beginning of something much deeper? You may feel right now that everything has lost its usual meaning, that the things that once gave you security or motivation no longer hold the same weight. The relationships around you might seem superficial, and even the goals that once drove you to get up every morning now feel empty. But this disconnection is not a mistake, nor a step backward. It is a sign that you are being called to a level of self-understanding far beyond anything you ever imagined. What you once believed yourself to be is beginning to crumble, making way for a much more authentic, purer version of yourself. Imagine for a moment that you have spent your entire life looking at the world through the same window, gazing at landscapes that felt familiar and safe. Now that window has disappeared. There is no frame, no barriers, and the vastness of the horizon overwhelms you. You don't know which direction to take because everything you once knew as real now feels strange and distant. This disconnection is like a threshold, the border between the version of you that adapted to the world and the version of you that is ready to be free. When you first experienced your spiritual awakening, you likely felt full of light, with a clarity that illuminated every corner of your being. But what many people don't talk about is what happens afterward, when that initial intensity fades. It's not uncommon to find yourself in a kind of void, looking around and wondering what comes next. This is the moment when life begins to redesign itself from the inside out. It's a process so profound that you cannot help but feel disconnected from who you once were. But this disconnection is not a rupture. It is a necessary pause. It's as if the universe is asking you to stop clinging to what no longer serves you, and allow yourself to release the old. It's an act of courage because our minds are programmed to seek stability, to hold on to the familiar. But when you embrace the uncertainty of this void, you begin to realize that within this disconnection lie the answers you have always been searching for. Think of a snake shedding its skin. It doesn't do so because something is wrong, but because the old layer can no longer contain its growth. The same is happening to you right now. You are shedding an identity that can no longer hold the greatness of who you are meant to become. However, this process is not always comfortable. We often feel fear because we are used to defining ourselves through our relationships, achievements, and routines. But when those reference points disappear, we are left facing ourselves, naked before the truth of our being. I want you to reflect on this. What aspects of your life no longer resonate with you? What relationships, jobs, beliefs, or habits have you been maintaining out of inertia without questioning whether they truly represent you? This emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It is a gift. It is the opportunity to strip away everything that does not belong to you and rebuild your life from an authentic foundation. But to do this, you need to be brave. You need to look within and ask yourself, who am I beyond the labels and roles I have taken on? At this stage, many people feel lost because society does not value these moments of disconnection. We are told we must always be busy, always chasing goals, always doing something. But what we are not told is that true transformation happens in the silence. In those moments when everything seems to have stopped, it is in that space that you can hear the voice of your soul, the part of you that has always known who you are and what you need. Imagine standing at the heart of a forest, surrounded by tall, strong trees. But now they are in the depths of winter. There are no leaves, no flowers, only bare branches. At first glance, you might think the forest is dead, but in reality, it is in a state of renewal. The roots, hidden beneath the surface, are absorbing the nutrients needed, so that when spring arrives, everything will bloom with more strength than ever. This is how this moment of disconnection in your life works. It seems like winter, but it is preparation for something far greater. It is important to remember that you are not failing. This void, this feeling of not belonging, is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is an invitation to let go of control, to allow things to flow, and to trust that the universe is working in your favor, even when you can't see it. This process is not about returning to the life you once had. It is about creating a new life that is aligned with your deepest truth. You may be wondering, how do I navigate this void? The answer is not to desperately seek something to fill the space, but to accept that space as part of your process. Allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because it is in that discomfort that you grow, where you transform. This is the fertile ground where the seeds of your new self are germinating. Disconnection is not the end of your spiritual awakening. It is the beginning of a deeper phase. It is the moment when you stop seeking answers outside of yourself and start finding them within. It is where you realize that true peace does not come from attaining something external, but from embracing who you are in this moment, with all your imperfections and strengths. Because only when you fully accept your disconnection can you begin to reconnect, but this time from a place of authenticity and inner power. So if you are feeling lost right now, I want you to know that you are not alone. This process is part of the journey for everyone who dares to awaken. And while it can be strange, even painful, it is also profoundly liberating. Because every step you take in this void brings you closer to the most authentic version of yourself. You do not need to rush or understand everything right now. You only need to trust that you are exactly where you need to be, and that every experience, no matter how confusing it may seem, has a purpose in your transformation. Have you ever felt like life is speaking to you in a language you can't quite explain, but somehow you understand? As if words were unnecessary, and everything was communicated through sensations, coincidences, and whispers only you can hear. It's strange, isn't it? That moment when the boundaries between logic and intuition seem to fade, and you realize that something bigger is at play. It's no coincidence. It is the universe responding to a part of you that, even if you don't always understand it, has always been connected to something much deeper. Maybe the signs you perceive seem contradictory, or perhaps you feel like you're not doing enough to interpret them. But I want you to remember something important. You don't need to have all the answers right now, nor do you need to understand every message or sign the universe sends you. All you need is to open yourself to the possibility that, even if you can't see it clearly, you are being guided. This process is not linear. There will be days when the signs seem clear, and others when you feel more lost than ever. But even in those moments of confusion, you are moving forward. You are learning to trust something beyond what you can explain, and that trust is what will lead you to discover a connection with life that is far deeper and more meaningful than you ever imagined. Every coincidence, every intuition, is an invitation to look within yourself. Not to find all the answers, but to remember that you are already part of something much greater, something you don't need to control or fully understand. Because true power does not lie in having all the certainties, but in knowing that even in uncertainty, you are exactly where you need to be. So the next time the universe speaks to you in its peculiar language, don't rush to understand it all. Stop, breathe, and listen. Observe how you feel, what thoughts arise, what parts of you awaken with each sign. And remember that these experiences are not there to give you a pre-established path. They are there to remind you that the path is built by you, step by step, with each decision, with each moment of trust. Trust that the signs you receive are not a mistake. They are the echo of a deeper truth that has always been within you, a truth that invites you to move forward, not because you have all the answers, but because you know that no matter what happens, you already have everything you need within you to discover them. Have you ever felt that your body speaks a language your mind cannot decipher, as if something in your bones, your skin, Every fiber of your being is trying to tell you something you can't fully understand. There are moments after a spiritual awakening when the body seems to take its own path beyond what you once considered normal. This can be unsettling, even exhausting. But what if this is simply an essential part of your transformation? The body is much more than just a machine that carries us through life. It is a vessel of energy, a bridge between the physical and the invisible. After an awakening, something changes in this bridge. It feels as if everything within you is being adjusted, like an instrument that needs tuning to play a new melody. But this process is not always smooth. Sometimes it manifests as inexplicable fatigue, as if every cell were working on something unseen. Other times, it's an extreme sensitivity to light, sounds, or even the emotions of those around you. However, beneath this apparent chaos, there is a deeper truth. Your body is responding to the change that has occurred within you. Imagine a butterfly that has just emerged from its chrysalis. Its still damp wings tremble as they open for the first time. Although it is no longer a caterpillar, it has not yet learned to fly. Its body must adapt to this new way of being, and that adjustment takes time. The same is happening to you. The version of yourself that emerged after your awakening is lighter, more expansive, but your body is used to carrying the densities of the past. It's as if it still bears the scars of old battles, and now needs to learn how to sustain this new energy, this new self you are discovering. In this process, the body is not only adapting, it is also teaching you. Every sensation of fatigue, every shiver, every inexplicable change is an invitation to listen to it more consciously. Society has taught us to ignore the body, to see it as a tool that must obey without question. But after an awakening, that is no longer possible. Your body becomes a teacher, one that does not always use words, but whose wisdom is profound and direct. The question is, are you willing to listen? Think about how you react when your body asks for rest. Do you listen to it, or do you try to force it to keep going? Many times, we ignore the signs because we believe that resting is a sign of weakness. But in reality, rest is an act of courage. It is recognizing that the body is not separate from your spiritual journey, but an integral part of it. When you allow yourself to rest, you are not just recharging energy. You are also giving your body the space it needs to integrate everything you have learned and felt. Sometimes, the physical sensations you experience may seem strange or even uncomfortable. Maybe you feel pressure in your chest without any apparent reason, or a tingling in your hands that you can't explain. These experiences are not signs that something is wrong, but that something is changing. It's as if your body is learning to hold a higher frequency, to resonate with the energy that now flows within you. And while this adjustment can be challenging, it is also an opportunity to deepen your connection with yourself. I want you to reflect for a moment. When was the last time you truly listened to your body? Not just when it was in pain or needed something, but when you listened to it as an ally, as a messenger carrying the wisdom of everything you have lived. Because that is what the body is. A living archive of your experiences, your emotions, every transformation you have gone through. Every sensation you feel now is an echo of that process, a reminder that change does not occur only in your mind or spirit, but also in every cell of your being. The body not only holds the memories of your past, it is also the ground where the future begins to take shape. It is in the body where the seeds of your transformation take root, where the possibilities of who you can become begin to sprout. But for those seeds to grow, you must tend to the soil. You must learn to listen to what your body needs in this moment, without judgment, without forcing it into something it is not. Imagine for a moment that your body is a temple, a sacred place where every sensation, every heartbeat, every breath is a ritual in itself. This temple is not separate from your spiritual life. It is a place where the divine and the human meet. And like any temple, it requires care, respect, and attention. What What would happen if you started treating your body with the same reverence with which you treat your soul? What if you saw every sensation as a prayer, every change as an opportunity to connect more deeply with who you are? After a spiritual awakening, it is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that everything should feel perfect, that you should be filled with energy and clarity all the time. But the truth is that awakening does not eliminate challenges. It simply gives you new tools to face them. And one of those tools is learning to work with your body instead of fighting against it. This requires patience because the body has its own rhythm, one that does not always match your expectations. But when you learn to move at the pace of your body, you discover a harmony that goes beyond the physical. You realize that the body is not an obstacle, but a powerful ally in your transformation journey. Each time you feel that your body is not cooperating, you have the opportunity to shift your perspective. Instead of seeing it as a problem that needs fixing, you can see it as a message that needs to be heard. So if you are experiencing physical changes that you cannot explain, do not see them as obstacles. See them as reminders that you are on a path of transformation, one that involves not just your mind and spirit, but every part of your being. And remember that, although this journey can be challenging, it is also deeply liberating, because every step you take, every sensation you experience, is bringing you closer to the truth of who you are. It is in solitude that what truly matters is revealed. Without external distractions, priorities reorganize, and what once seemed significant now loses relevance. Previous concerns and motivations fade into the background as questions arise that you never had the courage to ask yourself. What am I really searching for? What part of me has been waiting to be heard? In the stillness of solitude, these questions not only surface but also begin to be answered. This period of retreat also confronts you with something that can be unsettling: your shadow. For much of life, that part of you, made up of fears, wounds, and uncomfortable truths, remains hidden beneath the surface. But in solitude, without the distraction of others' voices, the shadow emerges clearly. At first, it may be uncomfortable, but it is also profoundly liberating because, in facing your shadow, you realize that it is not your enemy, but a part of you seeking recognition, acceptance, and integration. Imagine a calm lake. On the surface, everything seems peaceful, but as you dive in, you discover invisible currents, echoes of life, fragments that tell stories of what has transpired in its waters. Your solitude is that lake. What you find in it may not always be comfortable, but it will always be true. And in that truth, even when it is harsh, there is immense power. It is there that you realize you do not need to run from who you are, but embrace it completely. The need to be alone does not mean rejecting love, companionship, or connection. In fact, by giving yourself the space, you begin to experience these things more genuinely. Because when you are in tune with yourself, you no longer seek others to fill voids that only you can fill. Your solitude transforms into a place of renewal, a space where you meet yourself so you can return to the world with greater clarity and purpose. However, this period of isolation can bring moments of doubt. It is natural to question whether you are distancing yourself from what is important to you, whether you are losing valuable connections. But true connection does not disappear with distance. Those truly aligned with you will not drift away just because you take time for yourself. On the contrary, they will understand that this space you take is not only necessary but courageous. Because in a world that constantly demands action, pausing to listen to your inner self is an act of rebellion against the constant noise. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be discovered. In solitude, you learn to listen, not just to your thoughts, but also to the echoes of something deeper. There is a wisdom that unfolds when the noise fades, when you stop trying to fill every moment with words or actions and allow space to speak. In those moments, something within you begins to awaken. It is not the kind of awakening that shakes the world and immediately changes your perception. It is subtler, quieter, yet just as powerful. Your soul strengthens in solitude. You learn to be your own companion and find comfort in the fact that everything you truly need is already within you. This realization does not eliminate the need for others, but it transforms the way you relate to them. You no longer cling to people to fill voids or fear loss because you recognize that what is essential can never be taken away. And paradoxically, it is in that recognition that relationships begin to flourish more genuinely. This period of isolation may feel like winter, but not a winter of cold and desolation. Rather, a time in which roots strengthen beneath the surface. It is in this silence that the seeds of your next spring begin to germinate. Although the exterior may seem motionless, something within you is growing. This growth is not visible to the eye, but you feel it. It is an expansion that cannot be measured, only experienced. Sometimes, in those moments of solitude, you may feel closer to something greater than yourself. Perhaps you find it while gazing at the night sky or listening to the whisper of the wind through the trees. It is as if the universe is reminding you that you are never truly alone, that you are always part of something greater. In those moments, solitude ceases to be isolation and becomes a deeper connection with everything around you. The world will never stop being noisy, but that does not mean you must lose yourself in that noise. Your ability to retreat, to create these spaces of solitude, is an act of self-love and respect for the path you are on. Because you cannot build a life aligned with yourself if you do not know who you are when you are alone. When you emerge from this period of isolation, you will not be the same person. Not because you have become something entirely different, but because you will have returned to who you have always been. Solitude allows you to shed what is not authentic, the layers you have accumulated out of fear, expectations, or the need to fit in. And what remains is your essence, pure, strong, and free. The time you spend with yourself is not an escape. It is a reconnection, a way to remember that even though the world can be overwhelming, there is always a place to return to you. And in that place, in that silence, you find the strength to face whatever comes next. Because true power does not come from what you do, but from who you are when everything else fades away. Solitude is not the end of the road, but it is a necessary stretch. It allows you to walk more lightly because you let go of what you do not need. And in that walking, you discover that you have never truly been alone. You have always been accompanied by the most authentic version of yourself, patiently waiting for you to stop, to listen, to remember. And now that you know, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? How will you carry it with you? Not as a burden, but as a light that illuminates the path toward what truly matters.